How much money did you make in 2022?
I made 85,000 last year.
So proud of you. And what kind of plaque did you get in 2022?
So I got it right here. I got the 10K, and this is in June. This was my second month going full time. I got it. To say that your course and this business has changed my life is an understatement. Like it literally changed every aspect
Mm.
of my life.
Another episode of On the Road with the Loan Signing System. Here with signing agent Jason out in the great state of Maryland. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great.
Oh,
It's so awesome to be sitting here talking to you.
oh, man, the pleasure is mine. Your story, like all these stories, super inspiring. Let's just inspire people right out of the gate. We just finished 2022. The correction happened in 2022. We're actually on the way back to low rates as we speak. But let's talk about 2022. How much money did you make in 2022?
I made 85,000 last year.
You made $85,000 when everybody says it's slow. When I say that, man, $85,000 as a business owner, how does that make you feel?
I don't even think there's even words for it, honestly, because the trying to wrap my mind around the fact that I made that much money in 1 year is just it's just crazy. That's the only word I can come up with. It's just
I
crazy.
love it. I love it. So we are in February. How much money did you make in January of this year?
So January, I made 5,000 because I took a week off to take my family to Great Wolf, which was one of our bucket lists to be able to do that, and I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for this business.
Man, I just say it's a bucket list item. You took your family there. The best part of being a signing agent, actually, in my opinion, it's not the money. It's just doing what you did. You're like, hey,
Right.
Jason, you want to take today off? Okay, I'm going to take the whole week off, and you don't have to ask anybody but yourself, right?
That's it. That's it. Out of courtesy, I let my directs know, hey, I'll be away, but let me know and I'll send another notary your way. But other than that, there was nobody to wait, send in a request form, wait for them to approve it, then maybe get denied, and you got to try and scurry around to get hotel stays and all this stuff. But it's we literally decided to do it in December, and we went in January.
I love it, man. I'm so happy for you. I mean, not only did you make $85,000 last year in the correcting market, you're in Maryland, which is an attorney state, and you have to get your TPL. Did I say that right? TPL. I mean, it's such an incredible. People say, "Oh, you can't make money in an attorney state." Oh, last year was slow. No, you made money. You made $85,000 in an attorney state, and you did it in a correcting market. I mean, now that the market is normalizing, you're going to crush this year. So proud of you. And in 2022, what kind of plaque did you get in 2022?
So I got it right here. I got the 10K, and this is in June, and this was my second month going full time. I got it.
Oh my, 10K club in a correcting market when everyone's like, oh my God, I'm going to say that because there's so much fodder on the internet. Oh, you
Right.
shouldn't be a signing agent. It's not true. If somebody told you like last year was slow, what would you say?
There was no way it was slow because I wouldn't be able to make 85,000 if it was that slow in
Yeah.
that market.
I love it, man. I love it. So, let's get to your story because like all these stories are just as inspiring. Your story specifically, man. So take us back, tell people when you became a student, kind of take us back to why all this kind of came about making a career decision to be your own small business owner.
So I became a student in December of 2020. I was watching YouTube, saw a video pop up. I was in the medical field during 2020, so everybody should know what happened in 2020 and the good old COVID. Nobody likes to say that word anymore. Um, but I was working 12-hour days, leaving in the dark, coming home at dark, family going out to the park. I was too tired, didn't want to get out of bed, just feeling depressed and like not feeling wanted or in my full-time job. Feel like I'm not getting anywhere, just kind of treading water,
Mm.
living paycheck to paycheck. And then it was just that video popped up, and I was like, you know what? I didn't even know you could make money being a notary.
Well,
Like,
let's backtrack a little bit, man. You said some very vulnerable things. I mean, you're depressed, didn't want to get out of bed. I'd leave the house at dark. I'd come home at dark. What kind of toll did that take on your home life?
It wasn't good. If my wife was here, she would tell you that I wasn't the most pleasant person to be around.
Mm.
I was snapping at small things, being angry at the most stupidest things. Um, Really, what didn't even feel like I was even part of the family, honestly, to even say it. Like it was
Oh,
just like I
wow.
was just kind of like there in the background, just to pay the bills, kind of thing. It wasn't part of the family at all. So
Oh my gosh, man. I don't think anyone's ever said that. I feel that emotion when you said that, dude.
yeah,
You
I
know,
almost cried.
well, I would have cried with you, man. Every day you work for someone else, you're building their dreams, right? And then you had a moment, but you said something like living paycheck to paycheck. Talk about that. And the only reason I say that is I want someone else watching this right now. If they're living paycheck to paycheck, I want to know it's better on the other side, but they're going through that dark time. What was it like for you living paycheck to paycheck? I mean, how did you feel? I mean, outside of just not feeling like you're a part of the family.
You feel dejected because you get your money coming in and it's just going right out to bills. So you don't feel like you can actually get anywhere. Even though you're living paycheck to paycheck, the bills are getting paid. There's other bills that aren't getting, some of those bills weren't getting paid.
Oh.
So it was just kind of like you're treading water, but the water is getting higher and higher above your head because you can only tread water for so long.
I mean, wow, I never thought about that, man. I mean, what was the straw that broke the camel's back when you're like, okay, I got to make a change. I got to do something. What moment was that in 2020 where you're just like, I got to do this?
The biggest moment was, you know, I have a 9-year old and it's like seeing people go out to dinner, you know, for us to go out to dinner, I would have had to put money aside and save it for a week. It felt like it was just you just couldn't do it, and you couldn't go have that family time of, going to Great Wolf. There was no vacation to go to because there's just no money. And when I saw your video pop up, and I was like, you know what, this may be the answer. I literally thank God every single day that I came across that video because I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for that
God, you're making me cry, man. Uh, um, what I love about students' journeys like yours is because you're able to put everything in perspective. I get some students who think, $85,000 was a bad year. You're like, look, I used to have to save up just to take my family out to dinner. And you don't take taking your family on vacation for granted. It's like it's
video. Yep.
really a powerful moment because I think perspective is the most beautiful thing we can have as humans because it always could be worse, right? Always someone has it worse than us. But the fact that like you used to have to save up just to go out to dinner is just so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that, and if somebody's, in that spot where you were 2 years ago and it just seems dark, like there's no tomorrow, right? You don't want to get out of bed. What would you say to encourage them to just keep moving and make a decision to change?
My biggest advice would be is to start with goals
Mhm.
that you can check off. Because even if it's just get out of bed, put on some clothes because you did something that day, and then to take the steps, and finally you will reach it to where you'll be able to strive and actually do things. Because when you're in that depression state, just putting on clothes to go out to the living room is the biggest thing there is to you. But if you
Mm.
can accomplish that, then it's just wide open for you after that.
It took you 3 months to just kind of get up and running, which we'll share in a moment. But again, it's this perspective word. Like you're able to put everything in perspective. Like if I can celebrate getting out of bed, like that's a win, right? And if I can celebrate putting my pajamas on, that's a second win. And if I can like
Right.
go, if you stack the wins, that's how you create momentum. And and the crazy part is, and I tell every student this, and I'll tell it to you, it's like sometimes life hasn't happened. Life has to happen to you in order to learn how to be a business owner
Right.
because some people want immediate gratification. And so therefore they burn out only because they want immediate gratification before just appreciating the journey. And when you told me that you just said that, I got appreciative of getting out of bed. I was appreciative of putting on my socks, appreciative of putting on my pajamas, appreciative of going in the living room. Like that is why you're able to sustain the beginning part of a business where some people
Right.
aren't. You know what I mean? Like you're able to, because all businesses are like this and then straight up, but some people can't do the slow ramp. But because of where you came from, you're able to do the slow ramp, enjoy the little wins, enjoy the processes. Wow, it's crazy, man. But I think that's some really good advice about just appreciating small wins, because I always tell students, like, when did like waking up not become a big deal? You know
Right.
what I mean? One of
Yep.
my favorite analogies is like, if I gave you $10 million, how excited would you be?
Oh yeah.
Right now, what
Yeah.
if I gave you $10,000? I mean, what if I gave you $10 million, but you couldn't wake up the next morning? Would you take the $10 million?
No.
See what I'm saying? But we should feel great every day we wake
Right.
up. It's putting things in perspective, right? If I'm like, look, I'm going to give you 10 million, you're like, great, okay, 10 million. You don't wake up, you're like, keep your money. It's like, so to your point, it's like the small things should become the big things. That's the point
Right.
I'm trying to make.
Yeah. And the main thing is a lot of people they do these big giant goals. Like I want to make $1 million my first year in business. I'm like, but then what happens if you don't make that million, you're going to fail. You're going to feel like a failure. So
That's
if you
right.
do smaller goals to lead up to the big goals, you're checking things off as you go up to reach
That's
that
right.
bigger goal. And but to do the enjoy those small wins, enjoy those small goals that you're checking off. Like me talking to you right now, that's a business goal. I'm going to be checking it off
Nah.
after we get done this conversation.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm so proud of you. I mean, $85,000 in a correcting market is insane. We're in heading into a normalized market. I mean, you're going to get up to six figure. There's no doubt in my mind. Let me ask you this question as we kind of segue into income. You were one of my students who came in during the COVID boom, right? Let's face it, life was good during the COVID boom. But the market turns 2022. How come you didn't panic? How come you stayed the course? Right? I mean, because some people, 2022, I mean, shoot, you made the 10K club in June of 2022, which was like the peak of it's skyrocketing from like 3% to 5%. So, how come you didn't get discouraged or play victim to the higher rates? Because I'm trying to get into your mindset to help somebody else.
So the bigger thing is kind of like everybody else talks about is your whys,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like my whys were bigger than my failures.
Mm-hmm.
So my whys obviously are my family, and to be able to take my family to a vacation or not have to worry about, saving up to go to dinner, or if we do go on a vacation, it's going to put me back a few weeks to catch up on my bills because we spent it on vacation. So the why of being able to enjoy my family is what made me keep going. That there is
Mm.
no failure in this
I,
because
I'm
I
I'm
have
gonna
to
I'm
do
gonna
it.
take a stab. I'm gonna take a stab here. I'm gonna bet. I mean, obviously, your family's a ginormous driver. But man, you experienced such a bad working relationship. Probably was like, there's no way I'm going back.
That's it. Yep. That I actually told my old coworker, I said, I can never go back to working for
Yeah,
somebody else because I'm making somebody else's dreams come true. Why not make my own and my
that's
family's
right.
dreams true? Why help someone else that I'll never even know
Right.
or even feel appreciated doing?
Right.
And now I'm making my own family's dreams come true. One, I'm home way more than I was. I
Yeah.
don't even consider this full time, honestly. Like the money the hours that I'm putting in this, I'm like the hours that I was putting in compared to what I'm doing now, and I'm making almost double. It's a no brainer.
Yeah, I mean, you're making double working half his time, and
Half
family's
the
everything,
time.
right? I mean,
Right.
you know what? I love it. And again, I sometimes I think you got to go through things to get somewhere, because people who had the easy COVID experience, right when rates went from 3 to 5, they threw the arms up in the air and said, "Oh, it's over." When you said, like, I'm not going back, man. I got a family to feed. I'm not going back to the dark to dark. I'm not going back to just feeling not part of the family. Like when you said that, man, I'll start crying just saying it right now. Like, that feeling I don't even know what that feeling would feel like. And so, but you knew you weren't going to go back there. And so it's crazy what happens when you burn the boats. And you're like, I don't care if interest rates are 5%, 6%. Like, there's no plan B. And I think there's power in that, right?
Yeah, my family is more important than my failures.
Mm,
And there was not even an option to go back.
hmm.
It was had to be forward because my family not only depended on me, but they wanted to see me. They wanted
Yeah.
dad. They wanted to, hey, when we go to the park, we want dad to come with us, right? We want dad to have dinner with us. We want dad to be around and play catch with us out in the yard and kick the soccer ball. Um, there was no going back, because going back meant that I possibly could have lost my family if I'm not
Oh,
it to be very, very real right now is,
mhm.
we were at a point where, you know, it could possibly ruin the family. I may
Yeah.
not be part of the family anymore, So,
Well, thank you for sharing that. And again, it's amazing what we can accomplish when there's no plan B. Like your plan B was like losing your family, and that wasn't even a plan B. And so you were
right,
forced to do, and look what happened, $85,000 when the rest of the country says you can't make money as a signing agent in 2022. And again, it's sometimes there's a beauty in life, even though we can't see it, and it was setting you up to succeed in this industry, because if you could make it last year, you can make it any year. If you can do
right.
$85,000 in 2022, like that's the worst I've ever seen it. I've been in this business 19 years. So I survived the Great Recession, and last year was like nothing we've ever seen because there were so many unknowns, but you didn't care about the unknowns because the only known you knew is that you had to save your family. You had to go back. You could not go back, excuse me. And like I said, I think there's some beauty in that story, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and making 85,000 last year, and I didn't go full time until May.
Yeah. Well, let's
So,
segue into this, man. So let's segue into this. So she became a student December of 2020, but you didn't get your first signing until March of that year. And so it took 90 days to get up and running. You're in a unique
that's
state because there's only 3 states that require TPL: Maryland, Indiana, and Minnesota. So my question to you is, along this journey, right? 90 days to start. You got the course, you got your notary commission. What made you kept going? And I say that because I'll get some students who are like, Mark, it's been 30 days. I still haven't got my first signing. Like, you didn't get your first signing until 90 days out. And then how much money did you make in your first month?
my first month. I made $175
That's
in
my point. So
March.
if you made $175 in 4 months and you put out money to make
Yeah.
$175.
Yeah, and that title insurance stuff is not cheap. They take the course and to
Yeah.
do the test, and um, but I tell you, one of the things is I don't remember who told me it. It might have been Brad, but he said to start signing up for signing services before you can take them, because then you're seeing money come in that
Mm,
you can't take, because in Maryland we had to take a title insurance.
yeah.
So that was the motivation. Was like, wait a minute,
Oh, that's a
like
good hack.
wait, I can't take this signing because I'm
Yeah.
not allowed. But that's
Yeah.
money that's passing me by, and that was more motivation every single day to see that stuff just keep on going by me.
Oh, that's such a good hack because you're able to see the business is real.
Right.
So you're like, okay, the business is real. I see the signing opportunities. And so that's what kept you going. That's a great little hack there. And by the way, another good hack for anybody watching is the algorithms know you're real when you're hitting decline. And so it's like a double hack. It keeps you motivated and inspired. There's business there, but then also it's letting the algorithms know you're real. So when you're ready to hit accept, you're not a dormant profile. So wow,
Yep.
that's a great little hack. I love it. And so you're 4 months in, you make $175. Um, what'd you make your second month in business?
My second month, I made 3,000.
I love it. Then your fourth month.
It was 4,000.
Yeah. And then your fifth month.
It was 5,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of a slow and steady kind of increase. Let me ask you a question. So, during COVID, right, you saw some students like Brad making 20 grand, 30 grand. Why wasn't that discouraging you when you were only making $3,000 a month?
Because only making 3,000 a month changed
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah. Love it.
Like, and I mean, again, it may sound like he's saying it, talking about his family a lot, but that's
Yeah.
literally what made what tried me to keep going was, being able to see people doing it and knowing that I'm making 3,000 in a business that I didn't even know existed
Mm.
4 or 5 months ago.
What I love about that answer is, and again, yeah, you had to go through what you went through to learn how to get perspective. I don't think enough new signing agents have perspective. It wasn't what you just said is you saw other people do it. So it was an opportunity. Like if they could do it, I could do it. Instead
Right.
of getting discouraged by that, You're getting inspired by
Right.
that.
Yep.
And that I think is the mindset I wanted to tap into, because some people will watch this and be like, oh, 85,000, he got lucky, versus like, wow, if Jason can do it, I can do it. But that's the mindset of a 10K earner. It is being inspired by other people, having perspective of your own journey, and not trying to feel like your journey is wrong because someone else is doing something different, because
Yep.
you're just cheering for them. Good work, but I'm going to stay in my lane, because comparison is the thief of joy. And you didn't get in that comparison game, which I think a lot of new students do, right? I think some new
Right.
students, see students making, oh, I made $5,000 my first month, and they get discouraged versus what you did, which was like, oh, wow, Brad's making that money. Well, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's how you should be seeing those figures. So it's great. What I think the most inspiring part of your journey is what I want to touch on right now is, how much of your business is direct, going directly through attorneys, title offices, et cetera.
95% of the business is direct business.
Okay. So take people back, right? You're working for signing services. You know that you got to go direct 'cause that's where the money's at. How nervous were you?
So I am a huge introvert, to the point where I start sweating. I mean, I even sweated before we even started this video here. I was pacing back and forth, drinking water, because I'm like, man, I don't know what the heck's going to happen, right? But the main thing is that in order to talk to someone as an introvert, like I had to take 3 deep breaths. I was in my car. I make sure I keep pictures of my
Mhm.
family, and it was like, listen, this ain't an option. I got to go into this title office and talk to these people. And when you go in there, I'm pacing, like, my hands are sweating. I'm going to the title office and I'll talk to the guy.
Well, let me
Uh,
stop you real quick. I want to touch on something here. I think a lot of people see signing agents and then they don't get nervous. They don't get scared. And I always tell students, like, you just do it scared. That's the difference, right? It's
yep,
not like you don't get nervous, you don't get scared. And I love how you're very open with, like, just having this interview made you a little bit nervous, and anxiety is maybe a better word, or whatever introverts feel like. I can't relate to
yep,
that. But what I can relate to is I do things scared. And that's what you just said, is like, there was my family. If my why is big, the how is easy. Like, I got to do it. Right. But again, I think a lot of people think that they see you and think, oh, this must be easy to go direct. It must be easy to go talk to title
yep,
companies. And it's like, you're in the car,
yep,
you're
yep,
sweating, you're taking three
yeah.
deep breaths, you have the
And I
family
learned,
photo out.
yep, and I learned that from watching you. One of the things you mentioned was take 3 deep breaths, and after that third deep breath, get out of the car.
Yeah,
Don't even wait a second.
that's
Get
right.
out.
That's right.
And then I start walking up, and I have my business cards in my hand, ready to go. I talked to the guy. He said, "Oh," he says, "you actually know yourself pretty well." And I'm thinking to myself, "I don't know jack yet. Like, I haven't even did a signing yet. What are we talking about?" But I once I leave that office, I go back to my car. I called my wife and I said I did it, and she was proud. She's like, that's the start. That's all you need to do. She's, I'm super proud of you. That's all we asked you to do. You just went out and did it, and that's all that we can ask of you.
Oh, I'm gonna start crying again, bro.
I know. I
There's so many good things I want to touch on. The first thing is 3 big breaths and you went out. That's called commitment.
right,
And that's what I want to make sure people don't overhear is you took the deep 3 breaths. You could have made 14 other excuses. Oh, I need 3 more breaths. Oh, I
right,
need 3 more breaths after the 3 more breaths. But you
right.
made a decision. Because I tell people ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. I'm gonna do this scared. I'm gonna do it. And so I hope people heard that. It's just a commitment to the business. I'm gonna do it scared. And what I love is how you celebrated it. It wasn't about getting a signing. It was
Nope.
about celebrating. I actually did that. And again, I think people celebrate the wrong things. But again, going back to your story, you used to celebrate just getting out of bed. You used to celebrate just putting on your PJs, and that carried over to your business. And I hope everybody hears that. And again, I think you had to go through some of those rougher patches to become the business owner you are today, because a lot of people would go into that first title company, not get a signing, and see it as a failure. You got
Right,
on the phone and you're like, babe, you won't believe this. I just did it. Like, that's how
right.
people should treat everything. It's like the win isn't in getting the signing, the win is doing it scared.
That's Yep. That's
And
exactly it.
I mean, anything you want to add to that?
The biggest thing is just as an introvert, you have to celebrate the little wins. I mean,
Mhm.
really anybody. But as an introvert, to be able to talk to someone, especially a one-on-one, you know it's a big deal. Even if you don't make a dime off of that person, the fact that you just talk to them, it opens you up to when you go to the second time. It's like, well, I already did it once. What's two more times? What's 10
Mhm.
more times? What's 15 more times? Like, but if you don't do it the first time, you will feel more of a failure because of not being
Mhm.
able to talk. Just talk to one person. It's all it takes.
No, I love it. I mean, and maybe the introvertness in you has always taught you to celebrate the small wins because I really is like I think the theme of this is not taking anything for granted every step of the way. And the key to momentum is celebrating every so wins. All the small wins equal this huge win. And
Right.
I think it's such a beautiful thing. I want to touch base on something because I think you are a perfect example of this. I think a lot of people, a lot of introverts, excuse me, use being introverted as an excuse on why they're not successful. Like it's like, oh, I'm introverted, that's why I'm not going direct, and they use it as a crutch. Because you're introverted doesn't mean you can't do it scared. Because you're introverted doesn't mean you can't have confidence. Because you're introverted doesn't mean you can't be competent. It's almost as introverts use this as like a okay to fail statement
Yeah.
versus what you do. To touch on that.
So I agree 100%. One thing that the best advice that I can say to that is if it takes you to call them first, maybe introduce yourself and say, because again, I did it during COVID. So I sometimes I had to call first because I didn't know if they were going to be in the office or not, right?
Mhm.
Like people work from home, but I learned that by calling them and talking to them first, and hey, I'm actually 5 minutes away. Do you mind if I swing by with a basket of snacks? And
Mhm.
but that helped ease it because then I'm not
Mhm.
doing the face to face yet. I'm actually
Mhm.
doing the phone, which again, it's still hand sweaty, still sweating it out. Like I'm dialing the number before I hit send. I'm like, am I actually ready to do this? I don't know, but let's just do it,
Let's go.
and that helped me the first couple of times around was making that phone call first and talking to them and saying, hey, I'm actually around the corner here. Do you mind if I just swing by and drop off some snacks?
Oh, I love that hack. I mean, look, there's no wrong or right way of building a business. There's no wrong or right way of how to go market direct, right? What works for you was the phone call first. That helped lessen your nerves. You were still nervous, but I
Yep.
love you sharing that because, again, I mean, what I love about you, and maybe it was because you had no choice, but you didn't let your introvertness be a crutch or an excuse. And I don't know what introverts need to hear this right now, but a lot of them are using it as an excuse and almost as a way to be like, oh, it's cool I didn't make it because I'm introverted versus you saying, I'm going to do it scared, palm sweating. The way I eased into it was a phone call first, then going face to face. And so again, man, I think this is such an inspiring story because a lot of people see me, Jay, and they're like, "Oh my God, Mark, you can talk to anybody," and I'm like, "No, this business is for everybody." Let me ask you this. What I share with a lot of you students is, I'll walk into a title office, kick down the door. What's up? I'm Mark. I'm here to be your notary. And then some escrow officers are like,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to leave. And then I'll walk through some escrow office doors and I'll be like, kick down the door. What's up, everybody? I'm Mark. And they're like, you're just a breath of fresh air. But my
Yeah.
point is, introverted people can meet introverted people. You just got to stay authentically you. And you're an
Right.
introvert. You don't try to be me, even though I'm your mentor. You just stay Jason. And I'm trying to send that message out to introverts that they don't need to be someone they're not. What do you say to you about that?
That's exactly it. Like one of my things that I say is you're not reinventing the wheel. You may put nice spinner rims on it and lights on the wheel, but the wheel's still the wheel, right? So whatever works for you to be able to get through that first hurdle. And that first hurdle is, talking to somebody
Mm-hmm.
about, hey, I need that. Basically, you have to convince somebody to use you and that you're going to be great for the business. But as an introvert, that, yeah, I mean, you might as well just go tell me to jump off a bridge.
Yeah, well, let me
I
ask
would
you
rather do
this.
that first.
Well, let me ask you this. It's like, do you feel like you need to be somebody else to get business, or you can be introverted
Yeah,
Jason to
right.
get business, or do you feel like you need to put a dog and pony show on, like, hey, I'm Jason, how are you doing? Or are you just who you are and staying authentic to who you are? Talk about that.
Yeah, I am still an introvert today. I talk more to people, but when I go in there to visit title companies, well, now I'm slowly going into to visit real estate agents. I'm me. Like, I can't be anybody else. So yes, my hands are still sweaty. I still, in my car beforehand, maybe I have to, if I have an appointment at,
Oh,
like, hey, I'm gonna be swinging by your appointment at 6 o'clock. I'm there like 5:45 because it takes me that long to get out of the car.
mm,
Right. So I'm still the same guy. I go in there, I hit my talking points, and sometimes if they ask me a question, I'm like, oh, that question.
like, that
Right.
wasn't part of my script.
Right. So, I have a trick. As an introvert, a guy, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question. And when they re and that when they re-say it to me, I'm in my head thinking of an answer. So when they say it to me again, I have an answer for that. There's
Love it.
little tricks that I
Yeah.
teach myself to be able to do that. But I can't be anybody else. I'm not a good actor. If I was a good actor, I'll be in Hollywood, right? I
Mm.
gotta be me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, because I think, again, I wanted to speak to the introverts who felt like, they weren't good enough because they weren't full of energy, right? And they're not good enough because they're not coming in like, their shoulders back, full of confidence. It's like, you'll meet the people you're supposed to work with, right?
Right.
Some people don't like my high energy style. Okay. Some people might not like your low energy style. Okay. But you'll find the people that you're supposed to be with, and you can build a business off of that. Whether you're an extrovert like me, introvert like you. I think this is such a great conversation, man.
Yeah, there are plenty of people in the real estate world. If one don't like you, the next one will.
Amen, brother. I think not enough people understand that. I think people get turned down by two realtors and they think it's the end of the world. It's like, you
Yep.
get turned by two, you guess what? There's 1,000 more where you live. It's just
Right.
a numbers game. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I get it all the time. I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. Because you're introvert doesn't mean you can't be confident. And I want to say that out loud again, man. It's like, you
Yes.
ooze confidence. You know what you're doing. You're proud of your skill set. Just because you don't get energy from seeing other people doesn't mean you can't be really good at what you do. And for that, I'm proud of you, brother. I really am. And thank you for helping introverts today, with talking through that. Cause I think they see me and think you have to be Mark. No, you could be Jason, and make a really good living at this. Well, let's segue into the next question. I ask all you successful signing agents the same thing. And that's, if you had a best friend who was like, yo, Jason, I want to be a signing agent, but I need one piece of advice that's going to change my business. What would that piece of advice be for you?
The biggest advice that I would tell them is to reach out to an experienced notary or experienced signing agent. What I did was I saw Brad Martin. He was posting his monthly money that he was making, in the Facebook group. And I just reached out to him. I Facebook messaged him and I'm like, hey man, you don't know me from Adam, but I found out that you were in Maryland. Do you mind meeting me? And we actually met at Panera Bread. I didn't know he was the president of Panera Bread, used to be. I didn't know that, but I picked the place. And I sat there and I asked him, I had a list of questions and he met me. He was coming from a signing. He said, hey, I'll meet you here this date. And I asked him, what signing service did you do? How did you start off first? What did you do that? And I just went through all my questions, and he sat there and answered every single one of my questions.
Well, let me jump in real quick, because I don't think enough people utilize the community.
Yep.
I don't think enough people realize that you don't get what you don't ask for. Like, you're like, hey, do you meet? The worst they can say is what?
No.
Bro, that's my point. You know what I mean? And
Right.
you took a leap of faith. Again, you believed, you knew that, like, in order for me to go where I need to go, I need to get as many people telling me how I can be better. And again, I think that's a very successful person mentality. I think a lot of people come into our group, and I hope everyone's hearing this, right? Into our community, and they don't utilize the community enough. You did right out of the gate. And so give me that thought process. You had me as your mentor, you have my coach. What was the reason behind reaching out for Brad?
Reaching out to Brad, one of the biggest thing was is that he was from Maryland,
Right.
right? So here's somebody making 10, 15,000 a month, literally in the state that I'm living in. So what's good about, your course and your coaches and everything about it is great. But to have somebody in your backyard
Yeah.
to be like, hey, here's the
Yeah.
ins and outs of the
Yeah.
city,
Right.
of the
Right.
state that I'm living in. But to reach out to him, it was again going back to the family thing, was like, if I knew if I reached out to him, if the starting point was here, reaching out to him, I get moved up to here because I'm going to bypass all the mistakes that he had already done.
That's what I was trying to get at right there. It's this idea that like you should never stop learning. Right?
Right.
Like he's made X mistakes. I can learn from that. She made X mistakes. I can learn from that. And that's a successful mindset I was trying to get into. It's like, like you said, you don't need to recreate the wheel. By the way, I'm not the only one who makes a wheel. Right? So there's like so many different wheels you could be learning from. And that's the
Right.
mindset I want to get people in. Is like, you're here, you want to get here as quick as possible. We'll fill in that knowledge gap from as many different people as you can. And
Yep.
again, I take zero offense to you doing that because that's what you should be doing. People should be reaching out to you. People, and that's how you get successful, is by realizing you're not the smartest person in the room and not being afraid to ask for help. I think too
Right.
many people are afraid to ask for help because either they're insecure, they don't want to look dumb, but you're like, look, it's not about being dumb. It's actually about being smart. I can learn all these other people's mistakes, not make them. I can get to that quicker. So if you're watching this, LSS Nation, reach out to people in your community, reach out to people because you can learn from their mistakes to get where you want to go even quicker. So you're right. I know, what's funny is, I don't know, I think you're episode 70. I don't think anyone's ever said that piece of advice of like reaching out to other community members. It's maybe one other person now that I'm saying that out loud, but you really learned that. Did you also use Brad kind of as a support as well?
Yes. Every step of the way. When I did my first signing, I was like, there was a page that came up. I didn't know how to explain it. I went to the Facebook group first. I put a question out. Hey, there's this page. I don't remember what it was, but
Yeah.
here's this page. What is this? The
Right.
borrowers are asking what it is. And no one, no one responds. So I reached out to him on Facebook Messenger again,
Right.
and he responded right away.
Yeah.
I,
And again, I think people need to rely on the community more, and
right.
they don't because they're afraid to ask for help. And I love that you're not. And I love that, also your wife's not in the business. So
Nope.
sometimes it's just nice to have someone else to lean on for those questions, because you're like,
Yep.
okay, what do I do? And as much as we love our spouses, our friends, whoever, they're not really in the trenches with us. And again, you're utilizing Brad. Everyone should utilize somebody else. But I think that's an amazing, amazing point, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I still reach out to him every now and then. I needed a notary, in Maryland. I'm like, I know who to call. I know who to ask. 'Cause Brad
Yeah.
knows all the notaries. It seems like. So I
Yeah.
text him like, hey, I need a notary in this part of town. Do you know anybody? He sent me like 3 names.
Love it.
You know,
And that's,
perfect.
and that's what community is. And that's what LSS Nation is, right? But because we have the community doesn't mean everybody uses it. And so that's what I want to get inspired. And that's the message I want in this segment here is, don't be afraid to utilize the community, because the community can make you money if you utilize it correctly, like you did.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The Facebook group has gotten me through a lot of things. They answer a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I've learned some stuff even in the files that they have there.
Yeah.
Go through the files. I mean, that's what the group is there for. It literally is all the information you want right at your
Love it.
fingertips.
And again, not to beat a dead horse, but like everybody has the same course. Everybody has the same community, but not everybody does the same thing with it. And what I'm trying to inspire people is, you saw this massive community. Why wouldn't I reach out? I love what you said. I posed the question in the Facebook group on this document I didn't know. It's like you're utilizing the tools that are provided to you. And I hope some LSS students get inspired by this, because frankly, Brad's not the only person you could reach out to. It can be anybody,
Right.
right? And so
Yep.
you're utilizing the community in a way that benefits your business. And I hope everyone gets inspired by that. So a great piece of advice for signing agents is to utilize the community that's literally handed to them. So let's go to the last question here. And I kind of know the answer to this, but I think it's worth saying again. I'm trying to help somebody right now who's watching this, who's still on the fence about becoming a signing agent. Is this for me? Can I really pull this off? What was your moment of hesitation before you decided I'm going to jump in as a signing agent? Maybe to see if someone else has that same hesitation.
My biggest hesitation was obviously being an introvert, right?
Mm.
Like seeing this thing and I'm like, am I going to be able to do this?
Mm.
But when you have a family where you're the only income in the family, for me not to do it,
Mm-hmm.
literally try anything that I can possibly
Mm-hmm.
can to help the family and build the family back up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's when I was kind of like, I, I got to do this.
Were you scared that people weren't going to hire an introvert? Were you scared that if I wasn't going to be able to talk to people? Were you scared that you fearful that, this business is only for outgoing people? Like, talk a little deeper about that, what your concerns with, so maybe to help someone else who may have the same concerns.
Yeah. My biggest concern was, am I going to be able to talk to people?
Mm.
Right. Like if if you're a business owner, you're going in and trying to convince them to use you, but you can't talk to them. How is that possible?
Yeah.
Right. So I gotta talk to them to where they know that I'm gonna be good for the business. And
Right.
then also the whole thing about the business is you got to sit across from somebody and get them to sign documents where they're doing one of the biggest purchases of their life and they have to believe you. And as an introvert who doesn't like to talk to people, I was just thinking like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this.
Mm.
There'll be no way that I can talk to a stranger
Yeah.
about buying a $400,000 house and trying and convince them like, yes, these documents are real. I'm not trying to scam you here at all. Like, I got to show the confidence
Yeah.
and know what I'm talking about. But as an introvert, be able to just stare at
Yeah.
somebody, and be able to talk to them for that long is just wasn't a thing.
Well, again, it's funny what happens when your back's up against the wall, that you're almost forced to get uncomfortable. Would you say you've grown a lot as a human since you've started this business?
Oh yes. And my wife was here, she would tell you that like I'm almost the life of the party now. Where before I didn't even want to go to the party, right?
Wow.
Like, I'll talk to people I've never even talked to before. Like I'll walk up to people, and I'll talk to them, and honestly, like she would tell you, she went to birthday parties by herself with my kids. I would not go.
Wow.
And then, that this to say that your course and this business has changed my life is an understatement. Like it
Mm.
literally changed every aspect
Mm.
of my life, not just financially. Like the financial part is great, right? But to grow as a person, as a human being, and to
Mhm.
know that like I can literally, I'm on this earth to be a great person in society. I can talk to people. I can help people. I can, the amount of people that I come in contact with now to be able to help them, like I've helped them and not just financially, just to get to know their
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Like when you talk to people, you learn about them and it just makes you feel better to
Mhm.
know them, to know people but literally it has changed every aspect of my life.
That's beautiful, man. And thank you for sharing that. My favorite part about business is the personal growth that's required to become successful. You can't be the same person you are today and expect to make money tomorrow. And what I love about you is you were able to embrace that change and that transformation. And for that, I want to give you a lot of credit, because a lot of people are scared of change because they're not sure what's on the other side. But
Right.
yet you embrace the unknown. And so I want to make sure that you get your flowers and your credit, because like that's a scary change. Transformation is scary, but it's so beautiful on the other side, right? And,
Yes. Yes.
and like you said,
Never want to go back.
And like you said so perfectly, the money is great, but that's not where you're so excited about. It's actually attending a birthday party with your wife and kids. I mean, it's crazy, this growth. And to me, that's the story in this interview. It's not the money, it's this growth you've made as a human. My bet is you become a better father because of it. My bet's you've become a better husband because of it. And those, there's not a price tag you can put on both of those items I just said.
No, and I want to make sure people understand that it's not because I made 85,000 that I feel this way. It's I change as a person, right?
Mhm.
Like a lot of people think money makes you happy, right? Money will make you want to get out of bed every day. No, like that's not
Yeah.
true. There are plenty of people that can tell you that money does not bring happiness.
Yeah.
But it's the overall thing of like you grown as a person is literally what has the
Yeah.
biggest impact on my life is
Yeah.
that. Of course I'll take the money with it, of
Right.
course.
You're talking about the difference between like happiness and fulfillment.
Right.
And you become more of a fulfilled human, and that has no price tag on it, right? Money is
No.
fleeting, but they can't take your confidence, they can't take your fulfillment. That, like you said, I mean, one of the best things I think a human can do to another human is make them feel that they're not alone. And that's what you do as a signing agent, in my opinion. Like there's an hour of your day where I'm engaged. I want to hear about you. I want to learn about you.
Yep.
And you've impacted their life by just not by making them feel heard. And so it's some of the untold benefits of being a signing agent, I think, that go unspoken because, you know, I always talk about the money because that's what I feel like only people care about. But what I really like telling you is getting you in with the money, but really sharing the story of Jason. And to me, the story of Jason is going from an introvert to someone who's actually okay to going to birthday parties. And I was very vulnerable to share that, man. Let me ask you this question. If you, Jason, the introvert of all introverts, can build this business, do you think anybody can build this business?
Anybody can build this business. Anybody with no excuses. They don't allow excuses to be hurdles in their path. They knock down the walls of excuses and they can get it done. Anybody can do this. Matter of fact, I got my brother. He's already on it. I think he just finished his title insurance. He's going to be getting your course very soon, and he might have already bought it. But it's just that it's literally anybody can do this business. I mean, you can say it 1,000 times to make sure people understand this. That like you, if you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, whatever vert you want to be, you
Well,
can do this
dude,
business.
you said something, and I'm so glad I asked that question. Is anyone can build this business who gets rid of the excuses? Because
Right.
people are saying, well, you know, it's taking 4 months to get my first dollar. You're using it as an excuse. It's like, well, I don't have the time to study. You're using, I mean, you were working dark to dark and you found time to study because you got rid of the excuses. Now, I know, like I said, you know, I'll give credit to you, man. A lot of people have excuses. You didn't. And I want to make sure you get your kudos for that, dude, because I'm proud of you, man. A lot of people play victim to their circumstance versus use that circumstance as momentum and as a reason to change and be better. And you chose the latter, not the former, because a lot of people just create excuses and play victim. Oh, because of this, because of that, because I'm working 12-hour shifts, because I don't want to study. I don't have time to study.
Yep.
You chose the opposite, man. So I'm proud of you, dude. I'm honored to be on your bucket list, bro.
Yes.
Check it off. But I love and thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being vulnerable. Any final words you want to give somebody out there who might be experiencing what you experienced 3 years ago to help them through their time? And I'll give you the last word.
The biggest thing is set small goals so
Mhm.
you can check them off before you get to your big goals. Celebrate the small wins. If you take the LLS course and you pass the test, celebrate it. That's a
Mhm.
big deal. Like, check off the small goals. That's going to get you to your bigger goals. But in order to get to the bigger goals, you got to check off the small ones and celebrate the small stuff. Because I'm telling you, like, just getting out of bed, putting on a pair of pajamas was a win. Celebrate it.
I mean, I'll end with that, dude. I appreciate you. I'm proud of you, dude. So proud of you. This is just the beginning. You got a signing service in your future. You know this. And with that being said, man, love you and I'm out. See you later, bud.
See you
Bye.
later, man. Appreciate it.